Yeah.
Erev Tov, good evening everyone. It's great to see you all for another astrology class. It's the third one. Tonight we're meeting in this place. Last time we were meeting around the table. The first time we were here, I had a shtendel. Last time I had a big table. Now I have a small table here. I guess everyone could ask, "Ma nishtana halayla hazeh mikol halelot?" Every time it's something else, and we could, it will keep us awake. Last time we started to speak about the months. And we started to speak about the month of Av. So tonight we'll start to speak, we'll start from the month of Av and on. Let's review. We said that, as we know, we have 12 months, Jewish months. We start always with the month of Nisan. The reason we start with the month of Nisan and not the month of Tishrei, after all, Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah, beginning of the year, the Jewish year. We start with Nisan because that's what the Torah started with. The reason is very simple, because we became a nation, we came out of Mitzrayim, of Egypt, during the month of Nisan, and that is why we always count from the month of Nisan and on. Which means, for example, if the Torah says B'chodesh HaShevi'i, the seventh month means that we have to start from the counting from the month of Nisan, and when we get to the seventh month, which month is it? It is the month of Tishrei. Okay, so always start to count from the month of Nisan, Yetziat Mitzrayim, the Exodus. So last time we spoke about the month of Nisan, the month of Iyar, the month of Tammuz, and we did start the month of Av. I was looking at the YouTube video, and last time the video camera didn't have the plug on, so in the middle of the month of Av, it died. So we'll start from the month of Av and then we'll continue on. So the month of Av, the sign of the month of Av, as we said, every month has a sign, an astrological sign that has to do something with that month, something that happened, occurred in Jewish history. So the month of Av is Ariel Leo, which is under the element of Esh, of fire. As we said, we have 4 elements, and every month falls into one element. Okay? Please bring, if you don't mind, a chair from the kitchen and come and join us. Thank you. Good to see you. Okay, so it's under the element of fire. So during that month, the 2 Batei HaMikdash, the 2 temples, the first and the second temple, were put on fire. Right? They burned down, and the fire devours them. It devoured the Jewish people. We went to exile after the exile, after the destruction of the first temple, after the destruction of the second temple. In a sense, it's like a lion that devours its prey, and that's what happened to the Jewish people. Tisha B'Av was the time that the Meraglim, the spies, came back from Israel. Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses sent 12 spies to look at the land, to explore the land, and to come back with a report. And they came back with 10 of them, 10 out of 12 came back with a bad report, a negative report, and therefore they started to cry during that time. They despised 10 out of 12, except Yoshua bin Nun and Caleb ben Yefuneh started to cry. They caused the people to complain to Moshe and to turn against God, to cry as well. And because of that, God told them, Rashi says, the famous Rashi commentary of Rashi says, that what happened, God said, because you cried in vain, there was no reason for you to cry, I'm going to make sure that this day that you cried, which is Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, is going to be a day that you're going to be crying for generations to come. And this is the destruction of the first temple and the second temple. It's the most tragic occurrences, events in Jewish history happened during the month of Av. So speaking about the Meraglim, speaking about the spies, the fact is, each one was representing its tribe, and they were sent there not to give their own opinion, but rather to give a report of what they saw. This is what we saw, this is what we are reporting to you, and it's up to you, Moshe, to turn to God and to tell him to ask him what to do. They were sent there to bring facts, to bring information, but the issue is that they didn't bring information, but rather they gave their own interpretation, which means that they went there, they went there, and what happened was they came back with their own interpretation, with whatever they thought was they saw and they interpreted. For example, they say that they said that they looked like grasshoppers in the eyes of the giants who were there, and again, this was not the purpose why they were sent there. And the way they were thinking was wrong. Why? Because they thought that they were the leaders, they were the people who were leading their tribes, and they have the right to continue to lead it. Please take a chair and bring it, David. And they will have the right to continue leading it as they go into Israel. And that was wrong. Because even Moshe Rabbeinu, who was the leader of Klal Israel, of the Jewish people, did it only because God was guiding him. And God is the one who was telling him, yeah, this is what you have to do. The spies lost this connection with Moshe, with God, and they thought we should be the leaders for the rest of our lives, and this was wrong. And this, by the way, represents against the Leo, the lion, right? Because the lion is the king of all animals, beasts, and therefore he's the one who's in control of everything, and that is what the spies thought at that time. We should be in control, we are the leaders. So therefore, if someone is born in the month of Av, he's going to be someone who would want to be in a leadership position. He's going to be someone who would want to always pull all the strings, and there are going to be people who are going to impose themselves on the community, even though sometimes it will be unwanted. Okay, they would want to impose themselves on society. They would want everyone to have their feelings and their thoughts, right? For everyone to agree with what they have to say. So even though this month is the most tragic month that we find in the Jewish calendar, in the Hebrew calendar, Jewish nation has always this idea of tikva, of hope, and therefore we do believe that even though it seemed to be like the end of the Jewish people, it was not. And for example, if someone, God forbid, but when someone departs from this world, dies, we don't say it's the end, but rather we say it is a beginning. He is going to a better world. There's always a continuation. That's what the Jewish people are all about. And therefore, even though the two Batei HaMikdash, the two temples, were destroyed the same day, Tisha B'Av, this is, by the way, according to our tradition, the day that Mashiach is going to be born. Again, it's the idea of hope, the idea of renewal, the idea of rebirth. And the Yeshua, the salvation of the Jewish people, is going to start on Tisha B'Av. And that is why, during Mincha of Tisha B'Av, towards the end of the fast, if you analyze the text that we read in Mincha, what is it? It's consolation. It is hope. Right? We went through the tragedy. Now it's time to start a new page, to the idea of renewal, of rebirth. And the fact is, we don't believe in destruction, but rather we believe also in rebuilding and restarting. And therefore, again, someone is born in this month is going to be someone who will have the qualities of being a leader like Mashiach, like the Messiah, right? And therefore he could take the good part of it. Being a leader could be something that is extraordinary, as long as you know how to use your leadership skills, okay? And therefore, it's important for someone who's born during this month to remember that, and to know that he could use these leadership skills that he has for something good, for being a positive impact on the community, on the society where he lives. Elul. Elul is the sign of the month is Betula, Virgo, and the element is Afar, is earth. So Elul is the idea of, there's a lot of changes that happen during the month of Elul, great change, and it is very similar to the month of Sivan. We spoke about the month of Sivan. We said the month of Sivan, someone is born during that month, there's a lot of changes. Why? Because during the month of Sivan there was transformation to the Jewish people. They received the Torah, which completely transformed their beings. They became a nation through the acceptance of the Torah. And therefore, if someone is born in the month of Sivan, he's going to be someone who is prone to change. The same thing, by the way, with the month of Elul. So it is a month that is reserved for us to repent. It's a preparation for the month of Tishrei, the next month, which is Rosh Hashanah, the day of repentance, Yom Kippur, the day of atonement. So we have a whole month to do that. We have actually a whole year to do it, but certainly the month of Elul has this energy of tshuva, of repentance. And therefore, in order for a person to change himself or herself, they have to change their ways of conduct, the way that they conduct themselves. And therefore, Betula, Virgo, is a symbol of youth, of renewal, and therefore this month is going to be a month of hichatshut, of renewal to the Jewish nation. If someone is born during this month, he's going to be someone who is going to be extremely very active, and they're going to be multitasking. And the reason is because the month of Elul is the month again of changes, of a lot of preparation, of going into Slichot, of going into Rosh Hashanah, of again change, preparation, and so on and so forth. If someone is born during this month, he's going to be prone to that. The month of Elul also is, as we said, the month of Tshuva, of repentance, analyzing ourselves, introspection, and so on and so forth. And Chazal teach us that these people, the people who are born during the month of Elul, are going to be people who are going to be very analytical. They're going to be analyzing every little detail. Okay? They're going to be very critical. They're going to analyze everything. And therefore, it's an interesting month because even though it's under the elements of Adama, earth, it's a combination with spirit as well. Why is it combination with spirit? Because the idea is the spirit of tshuva, of repentance. So a good thing about it, if someone is born during this month, he's going to be someone who's prone to righteousness. Okay? And to correct whatever is necessary to correct in his or her life, which is great. Now, something that is not so good, that is pretty negative about this month, if someone is born during this month, is since they are going to be very critical, they are going to be very critical when it comes, and analytical when it comes to other people, and every little detail will disturb them, and they're going to also they're going to be worried about themselves. Why? Because since they are going to analyze every little action that they do, that may bring them to depression. Why? Because I'm not perfect. But no one told you that you have to be perfect. But since they are prone to that, to be analytical, that may be sometimes an issue. Again, a person has to know how to use those midot, those character traits. As we said, midot, character traits in Hebrew are midot. Midot means measurements, which means that every character trait that a person has, he has to know how to measure it, when to use it, and how much to use it. Okay? That's important to remember. So therefore, our rabbis teach us that if someone is born in the month of Elul, is going to be someone who is going to have a lot of feelings. He's going to be extremely emotional, and sometimes they are not going to express those feelings. Some people who are born during this month are going to be people who are not going to be show their love for other people or their kindness to other people, and the reason is because they're going to be analyzing every person. They're going to suspect every person, and because of that, if someone is born during this month, there's some people who are born in the month of Elul and they have ulcers. The reason that they have ulcers is because since they are so analytical, what happens? They are looking into themselves so much they become so either depressed or nervous, and that may affect their system. On the other hand, these people are going to be extremely spiritual. As we know, Elul is Ani ledodi vedodi li, the acronym of I am for my beloved, which is God, and my beloved is for me. God is embracing the Jewish people are embracing God, and this love that is created during this month is going to be something that the people who are born during this month will have. They will feel extremely close to God. They're going to be spiritual. Tishrei, the next month, the sign is Libra, Moznaim, a scale. As we know, the world was created during the month of Tishrei. That's what we say, Bereshit. Bereshit, you could say, you could divide it, Bet, Reshit, okay, which means in the beginning, right? And according to many of our commentators, Adam Arishon was created on the 1st of Tishrei. The element of the month is spirit. Why? Because during this month, what did Hashem do? What did God do? He blew a spirit of life into a neshama, a soul, into the world, into Adam. And therefore, that's what it says during this month, the month of Tishrei, the creation of the world. Veruach Elokim merachefet al penei hamayim. The Spirit of God was hovering this on top of the water. So even though the physical body of Adam was created during this month, the emphasis is really the neshama, the soul, the spirit of the person of Adam Arishon. So it's a spiritual month, as we know. Rosh Hashanah, we go to the Bet HaKnesset, to the synagogue, Yom Kippur, and everything is really surrounded around our neshama, our soul, our spirit, rather than our guf, our body. And the sign of the month, as we said, Libra, a scale, which means that God is weighing our actions, what we did during the year. There's also Simchat Torah during this month. Simchat Torah is considered a mini Shavuot. Shavuot was the acceptance of the Torah, and Simchat Torah is the completion of the Torah. Why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu took the 2 tablets of the law, Shnei Luchot HaBrit, the second time. When did he do it? When did he come down? On Yom Kippur. The second time that he went up was Rosh Chodesh Elul, the beginning of the month of Elul. 40 days later, you make the calculation, the cheshbon, comes out to Yom Kippur, where God atoned the sin of Bnei Israel, the Jewish people, after they sinned with the golden calf. And that is why the Sephardic minhag is to start slichot during the month of Elul, because of these 40 days of repentance where Moshe Rabbeinu went to the heavens for the second time to accept the Luchot HaBrit, the tablets, and the Torah. So, people who are born during this month will be people who are going to be believing in harmony, in peace with other people. They're going to be easygoing, extremely easygoing, and they would do so in order to live peacefully with other people. They're going to be extremely well balanced, and they're going to have a connection with God. These people who are born during the month of Tishrei will be exactly like the month of Elul. They're going to be prone to change their behavior, and if there's something that is not good or is negative in their lives, they're going to change it. Why? In order to have a better life, to become better people, and also to get closer to God. On the other hand, these people are going to have great difficulties when it comes to make decisions. Okay? They will know what they have to do, but to make the decision will be extremely difficult. Okay? In a sense, it's like the month of Tishrei, where we come on Rosh Hashanah and we know what we did wrong, and we have to take the next step, which is to change our ways. But sometimes it takes time and a lot of willing in order to get to the point of changing our lives, our ways. The month of Cheshvan, Scorpio. This is the sign of the month, and the element is Mayim, water. During the month of Cheshvan, it was the Mabul, the flood, in the time of Noah, took place during the month of Cheshvan, and it's exactly like the Scorpio that has this murderous bite. That's what happened to the world. The world came to a point of destruction during the time of Noah. The whole world was destroyed. Cheshvan has no Chagim, has no holidays, no fast days, and that is why it's called Mar Cheshvan. Mar Cheshvan means the bitter Cheshvan. It's a bitter month in the sense that there's really nothing in it. No holidays, no fast, nothing significant. During this month, King Yerovam, as we know, Israel, the Jewish nation at that time, was divided. There was Israel and Yehuda. So Bet HaMikdash was in the Malchut Bet David, not in the part where Yerovam was. And Yerovam feared that his nation, that his people, that his subjects are going to go 3 times a year to the other kingdom in order to pray, in order to go to the Bet HaMikdash, in order to bring sacrifices. So what did he do? He built an altar that he wasn't supposed to build, and it was something that was foreign, that God was not pleased by, and this happened during the month of Cheshvan. On the other hand, what happened during the month of Cheshvan was the completion of the first Bet HaMikdash, the first temple. So if someone is born during this month, it's going to be someone who's going to have a lot of perseverance. Someone who's not going to give up so quickly. And this is good if you know how to use it, if you use it for correctly. And why? Because people could achieve a lot by persevering. And I know it for a fact. I was born during the month of Cheshvan. And I know that sometimes I don't use it correctly. I'm a very stubborn person at times. But the fact is, if you know how to use it, it could be definitely something that is great. So if someone has a child who's born during this month, they should know that they could achieve and be successful in their lives. Again, as we said before, I'll repeat that, we have to know how to use it and how much to use of it. And it's exactly like water, because it's the element of water. Imagine water, what happens to water? When you spill a glass of water, where does it go? It goes everywhere. So this person who was born during this month, he's going to, again, persevere. If he tries one way and it doesn't work, he's not going to say, you know what, forget it. No, he's going to try again. But what is he going to try? He's going to try a different angle. And if that angle doesn't work, so he's going to try until he succeeds, till he gets where he wants to get. The month of Kislev. Month of Kislev, Sagittarius. What is the sign of the month? A bow and an arrow. And the element is Esh, is fire. Why fire? What happened during the month of Kislev? Which holiday do we celebrate during the month of Kislev? Hanukkah. Hanukkah, candles, fire. Okay, so Kislev, as we know, in the Torah, we don't find the names of every month. Okay, in the Torah, as we said before, there are numbers: the first month, the second month, the third month, and so on and so forth. When the Jews came back from Babylonia, they brought these names with them. So every month, and we could leave it for another time, just for you to know, has a certain significance in the name that it was given. Kislev is the idea of koach, power, and bitachon, and either faith or trust. One thing we have to remember, that the Hebrew language is a very special language, a holy language, but every word has a significance. It is not like every other language. The other languages, what happened is, we had to communicate. So in order to communicate, people found certain words that they will be able to communicate with each other. So people made up words, made up languages in order to, again, understand each other. But the only language that really has an inner meaning, that every letter and every word has an inner meaning, is Hebrew. And the word could define something, could describe something. And there are many, many languages where the word that is used originates from Hebrew, from the holy language. For example, some will say it's a little bit far-fetched, but they say Kislev comes from the word, some say in English, castle. Okay, it's a little far-fetched, but the fact is, a castle represents something, it represents power, it represents trust, faith, security as well, when you are in a castle. Okay, so Hanukkah, as we know, there was a small army of the Hashmonaim, people who were not soldiers in any way, they were not trained, they were not the IDF who were trained, they were Kohanim, people who were usually working in the Bet HaMikdash. And these people, out of all people, are the ones who are becoming the militants, the soldiers, even though, as we said, they were the Manhigim Aruchanim, they were the spiritual leaders. They took the arms and they came out to the Milchama, to the war. And this is a war that was different than any other war. Why? Because any other war that the Jews went into, there were people who knew what they were doing. In this case, they didn't know, and since they supported each other, and they had this bitachon, this faith, this trust in God, they were able to be victorious. So if someone is born during this month, he's going to have a lot of bitachon atzmi, self-security. He's going to be someone who's going to be extremely optimistic. He's going to be someone who wants to always go ahead. Why? Because of the arrow. The arrow, when we shoot it, it goes very far. This person who's born during this month would want to go very far in his life. And they're going to be people with great ambitions. They're going to be extremely ambitious, which is good. It will give them hope to the future, even though sometimes life is not going to be easy for them. It's going to help them to go through different obstacles and challenges in their lives. And Chazal, our rabbis, teach us that they're going to be extremely lively. They're going to have a lot of joie de vivre, joy of life. And it's a combination of fire, combination of the arrow that goes far away. Now, something that is negative about this month is that if you don't use it positively, it could destroy, the people who are born in this month. For example, how? When you shoot an arrow, right, you don't know exactly where it's going to land. Right? So, people who are born during this month are going to be people who would want always to experience new things, even though they don't know exactly where it's going to land. Where they are going to land by experiencing whatever they will experience. And you could think, you could imagine, you could have sometimes people who have these crazy ideas of what they want to experience. And these people are going to be prone to that. To the point that sometimes what is going to happen, by experiencing and going really too far, they're going to hurt other people on the way through their ambition to where they want to get. On a spiritual level, as we said, the element is Ish, is fire, which is good. Why? Because that's what Hanukkah is all about, spirituality. As we know, the Roman Greeks at that time, what did they want to do? They wanted to destroy the Jewish people spiritually, right? And therefore, The fire, what happens when you turn the fire? Where does it go? It's going up towards the heavens. It's spirituality, something that is spiritual. So the people who are born in the month of Kislev will have the tendency of being people who are going to be spiritual, extremely philosophical. And that is what Chanukah is all about. Even though it was a physical war, as we explained, the real war was a philosophical war, a spiritual war. The Roman Greeks wanted everyone to follow their way of thinking, of philosophy, and they really didn't want to destroy us physically, to destroy our bodies, but rather our souls, our neshamot. They didn't want us to continue to be the Jewish people, Jewish continuity. They abolished 3 major mitzvot that we have. Some say it was Shabbat, Brit Milah, and Rosh Chodesh. And the reason they wanted to destroy these 3, and especially the Rosh Chodesh, if you wouldn't have the beginning of the month, you wouldn't know exactly when all the holidays, the Jewish holidays are. Without Jewish holidays, there's no Jewish nation, there's no continuity, and that's what they wanted to do. And that's what brought the war of Chanukah. Also, something interesting that happened during the month of Kislev. Yosef, the son of Yaakov, was born during the month of Kislev. And again, it's Sagittarius. And there's 2 things that we find about Yosef. First of all, he came to fame, right? He became the viceroy of Paro. How? By dreaming. The dreams brought him to this greatness of being known all over the world. It started with the dreams that he had at his father's place, his father's home. Then he goes down to Mitzrayim, to Egypt. And then he had the dreams with the butler and the baker that he interprets. And then the interpretation of the dream of Paro. And then becoming the viceroy of Mitzrayim. So Chazal, our rabbis, teach us that people who are born during this month, the month of Kislev, they will have a sense of mystery. There will be people who would be prone to look into the depth of every person. Okay, sometimes it could be scary, but the fact is they'll be able to watch the look at a person and see what is the goal of the person, who the person is. Exactly like Yosef. And to the point that they'll be able even sometimes to predict some future for those people. Even though we started the first class by saying you can't predict the future and you shouldn't go to people who predict the future. But these people will be prone to have this power, a natural power that they will have, and they'll be able to build because they are born during this month. The second thing that we found about Yosef, Yosef was extremely careful to distinguish between what's right and what is wrong. Okay? One example that we find is Eshet Potiphar, the wife of Potiphar, who wanted to have relations with Yosef because Yefeh Toar Vifeh Mareh was a handsome young man. And what does he do? There was the Torah describes that one day he comes to Bet Adonav, to his master's home. There's no one there, only the wife of Potiphar. She wants to live with him, to have relations with him, and he runs away because he knows that this is wrong. And therefore, that's why we call Yosef HaTzadik, Yosef the righteous. By the way, we don't find anywhere else in the Torah. We don't say Moshe HaTzadik. We say Moshe Rabbeinu, Avraham Avinu, Yaakov Avinu, Yitzchak Avinu. The only one who is called a tzaddik, righteous, is Yosef. Why is he called tzaddik, righteous? Because a righteous person is someone who knows when to stop and not to sin, and that's what exactly happened to Yosef. And therefore, Paro calls them En Chacham, describes him as En Chacham v'navon kamocha. There's no one as wise and as brilliant as you are, Yosef. So therefore, someone who's born during this month will have wisdom, will be extremely intelligent, and also will have this ability to distinguish and to know what's right and what is wrong. Another thing we find about Yosef is that Yosef had the ability to bring people together. And how do we find it? In Egypt, right? He understands, he predicts that Egypt will get to a point of ra'av, of famine. So what does he do? A brilliant system that he puts into place, an economic system, in order for the people, the Egyptians, not to die from hunger, from famine. And it's a system that no one ever heard or did before. And it's something that when the Egyptians heard, they trusted Yosef. And he was, by the way, a newcomer. He wasn't born in Egypt. Right? And he didn't have proper propaganda. It's not someone who is known to the Egyptian society that they are going to announce it this week. Yosef, everyone knows him. He didn't have all this. But the fact is, he comes out of prison. He becomes Yosef. And after a few years, everyone is bowing down to Yosef. And they know that he is Jewish. And this is something that is extraordinary, that is amazing. And he brings all the Egyptians together in order for them to live and not to die. So if someone is born during this month, he will be prone to be able to bring solutions to people's issues and to bring them back together. There's another interesting idea about the month of Kislev. As we know, there's going to be two messiahs, Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. And Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach was going to be the son or descendant of Yosef, will be the one who is going to bring everyone into Eretz Israel, from exile into the Holy Land. And therefore Yosef comes from the word Esof, which means to gather, to bring together. Right? And that is why the Mashiach, who is going to be descendant of Yosef, will have this ability of bringing all the Jews together to bring them into the Holy Land, into Eretz Israel. So if someone, again, is born during this month, they'll have the ability of bringing Shalom Bayit, peace between husband and wife, community, society, country, and so on and so forth. The sign of the month is, as we know, a keshet, a bow. And keshet also means in Hebrew a rainbow, okay? And that represents, the bow represents the tefillah, prayer, as we find by Yaakov Avinu. He says, right, Beharbi uvkashti, that I fought with my bow and arrow, and the unkelos, the Aramaic translation is bitzluti uvauti, with my prayer and my beseeching, my imploring. Okay, and therefore it's the idea of tefillah as well, the idea of prayer. When Hannah is praying, as we know, Hannah was barren, she couldn't have children. She prays to God to have a child, and the words that she uses is ki isha keshat ruach anuchi, because I am a woman that keshat ruach, that is having a hard time. But keshat comes from the word also keshet, which is rainbow, which is a bow, the idea of tefillah, of prayer, which means that Hannah is praying to God. She's putting all her emotions, her feelings, she turns to God with that. And again, it's the idea of an arrow. When someone shoots an arrow, it could go very far. The idea of prayer, when someone prays, the prayer could go very far. It could break all the mesachim, all the walls between us and the Almighty. And it's also the idea that when you are about to shoot an arrow, the more you pull it, the farthest is going to go. The same thing with tefillah, with prayer. The more you pray, the more chances you have to be able to this prayer to penetrate the heavens. You know, it reminds me, I'm reading an amazing book about a certain Rabbanit, a certain Rebbetzin, Rabbanit Kanievsky. Rabbanit Kanievsky used to live in Bnei. She passed away last year. She was an amazing woman. Really, a lot of stories about her, about her husband. But this particular book was written about her life. And one thing, there were thousands and thousands of people who used to come to her for blessings, prayer, good wishes. And she dealt with people who unfortunately had sicknesses, and the prediction was that they wouldn't live for too long. and used to come to her to pray. So she used to tell them, I'll pray for you. She used to take the name. And then she used to tell them that, you know what, there's something else that you could do, and you should pray for yourself as well. That's what she used to tell them. So it's great, I'm going to pray. And many times, apparently, her prayer really changed people's lives. People were able to continue living because of her tefillot. But she said, you know, if 2 Jews pray, it's better than 1 Jew praying. And that's the idea of tefillah, the idea of prayer. As long as we pray, there's always there's always a hope. Now, you might ask the question, as a side note, sometimes our prayers are not, well, it seems like they're not heard, right? Accepted, right? Because we pray for something, either it doesn't happen or whatever it is. So what happens then? So I heard once an interesting point, and this is the prayer. No prayer goes in vain, which means that God, in a sense, has a freezer up there, and what happens is sometimes He takes this prayer, and for reasons that we don't know, He freezes it, right? And then later on, a few generations later, the descendant of this person who prayed, He brings upon him this prayer that was prayed by his ancestor, right? So the idea is there's no prayer that goes in vain. Every prayer that we pray is accepted by God. Now, does God answer all our prayers? Not necessarily, for some reason or another that we don't know. At least I don't know. Okay, God doesn't answer necessarily the prayer, but He definitely keeps it in a safe place and in the right moment where God decides that this is going to be the right moment to bring it or to accept it. Then He brings this bracha, this blessing, to the world. So if someone is born during the month of Kislev, they're going to be extremely sensitive when it comes to tefillah, to prayer. Now, something that is negative about this month, since it is an arrow, if someone is born during this month, they're going to be extremely nice, and sometimes it could explode into ka'as, into anger. Why? Because it's exactly like an arrow. The arrow goes up, okay, and then it goes down, or it's like fire that comes sometimes for nothing, because as we said, the element of Kislev is fire. What happens with fire? You turn something on, you put the fire on, sometimes, poof, it goes up. Same thing with someone who is born during this month. It could be someone who is going to be moody, which means for no reason, he's going to get upset, he's going to be angry out of the blue. So, Chazal also teach us, our rabbis teach us, that someone who's born during this month, even though he's prone to get angry, upset extremely fast, quickly, they will also calm down quickly, and therefore we shouldn't take it too seriously if a Kislev man or woman are getting angry. They are going to get over it. The Zohar also says that there was an extreme darkness during the month of Kislev. This is where the Roman Greeks had their philosophy, and then from this darkness, what did come out of this darkness? A great light, the light of Hanukkah. And this is why, by the way, we always celebrate Hanukkah every year at the darkest days of the year. Every year it comes out to the darkest days. The darkest day of the year is always during Hanukkah. The idea of light, bringing light to this world, bringing spirituality to this world. And again, if someone is born during this month, he will be able to be spiritual, to bring light into dark moments of history. And by the way, this is just, it's pretty long in the month of Kislev. There's a lot more to say, but it's going to be unfair if someone is born during the month of Kislev. We gave it a lot of attention. We'll stop here and we'll continue with the month of Tevet. Capricorn. It's represented by a taleh, which is a kid, small animal. And the element of the month is afar, is earth. Now, this sign is not so easy to interpret, okay? During this month, by the way, is Asara B'Tevet, the 10th of Tevet, which is the beginning of the siege of Yerushalayim, of Jerusalem. So there's a feeling of siege. If someone is born during this month, he will feel sometimes the idea of being siege, being trapped in something. Tevet has the letters of Tet Vet, which is without a Vav, but you could put a Cholam and it becomes Tov, good. So if someone is born during this month, he will have the ability to become good people, to better themselves, to elevate themselves, to work on themselves, to become, again, better people, elevate people, spiritual people. Tevet also could mean Tovot, right? Again, something that is good. And that means that people who are born during this month will be sometimes prone to miss good things in their lives. Okay? So these people will have to be extremely careful not to miss whatever is good, is tov in their lives. Why? Because these people will be prone to think that people are shortchanging them, are tricking them, are lying to them. Okay? So Chazal teach us that these people will be intelligent, they'll have the mental capacity to understand many things. These people will be extremely sensitive, but the most thing that they'll be sensitive about will be, again, being prone to think that the whole world is cheating them, is lying. Okay? And therefore, Chazal teach us that the people who are born during this month will have this temptation of money, of wanting money, of desiring money, of having physical or material goods. Why? Because they'll always feel that something is missing in their lives. And since they'll feel that people are cheating them, they will always want to have more and more in their lives. They will want to have always financial well-being, and in order to cover whatever they feel is missing in their lives. Now, the month of Kislev always, or the Chanukah, sorry, always extends into the month of, which month? It starts in Kislev and it goes into Tevet. Okay? So people who are born during this month will be sometimes insecure. Why? Because they'll think that the whole world is not fair because of this idea of change between one month and the other month. They'll have tendency always to cover their needs, whatever they need. Why? Because of this insecurity that they will develop. And through tradition and Judaism and religion, they'll be able to change that. And this is, by the way, it's the symbol of Chanukah. Chanukah represents the fire of religion, and they will sometimes feel actually great satisfaction with that, and this will be a compensating factor for what is missing in their life. So again, they'll be prone to spirituality that will come from the month of Kislev. Now, Chazal rabbis teach us that if we analyze the cattle, we see that the Gdi, the kid, always runs ahead of all the other sheep and everything else. Why? Because it needs water, it needs whatever it needs. So Gdi, which is a kid, in the Torah, we always find Gdi accompanied by another word, which is Gdi Izim. Okay? Now, when it comes to Izim, we find that Ez comes from the word Az. Az means someone who is strong, who is brazen. Okay? So, these people who are born during the month of Tevet are going to be strong, aggressive, and this aggressiveness could be good or not good. Okay? So, let's think for a second, let's analyze that. Someone could be aggressive for good things. For example, Chanukah, the idea of Torah, the idea of fire, could be someone who would want to be aggressive in order to become spiritual, to get more spirituality. and this is good. And sometimes it could be less good, depends how he's going to be using these character traits that he has. Someone who's born during this month will be prone to accept the Torah, accept spirituality, again, because it comes from Hanukkah, the idea of fire, the idea of spirit. And Chazal teach us, when it comes to Purim, okay, it says Kimu v'kibelu alehem, that the Jews, Purim is very, very close, in a couple of weeks. It says that the Jews accepted, fulfilled, v'kibelu, and accepted upon themselves, ve'al zar'am, and on the generations, on the descendants to come. Which means that Purim, there was a second acceptance of the Torah. Okay? And the fact is, that's what, in a sense, going to happen to someone who is born during the month of Tevet. Again, it's going to be someone who is going to be able to accept the Torah, the spirituality, the idea of fire, because of Hanukkah, because of what happened during Hanukkah, the whole idea of Hanukkah, the idea of spirituality, the idea of fire, the idea of getting closer to God, as the fire is going to the heavens. Any questions? No? Good? Okay. So let's see. To continue on. Okay. So the month of, we did Tevet, the month of Shvat, and we have Adar, and then we're done with the months. Okay, so let's finish with Shvat and Adar. So Shvat, the month of Shvat, we just celebrated not long ago. We're still in the month of Shvat, but Tu B'Shvat. Tu B'Shvat is Rosh Hashanah La'ilanot, the beginning of the year for the trees. The reason is because when it came to Ma'aser, to tithing, you used to start tithing during the month of Shvat, on the 15th of Shvat. That's how they used to start counting the years of the tree. Okay? And it's the idea of a new season, a renewal. It's going from winter slowly but surely into, not yet, but slowly but surely into spring, the idea of growth, of rebirth, of renewal. So if someone is born during the month of Shvat, again, it's going to be someone who is going to be prone to change, prone to renewal, someone who is going to come with exciting ideas, with innovative ideas. He's going to be someone who's going to be prone to be an extremely good businessman. Why? Because of all his innovations, all his ideas that he could bring to society, to the world. He's going to be someone also who will be able to have a power of position and to be extremely charismatic because of all these ideas that he has, which is good. On the other hand, the negative part of the month of Shvat is, since he's going to have all these different innovative ideas, he's going to be a sweet talker. He's going to be able to sell, I guess, snow in Alaska, if we want to put it that way. This is because of all these chidushim, innovative ideas, renewal that he has in his mind. He'll be an extremely good businessman, salesman, which sometimes could be not good because it could bring the person to lie, to cheat, in order to make a living in a not so decent and kosher way. Okay, so this is the month of Shvat. We conclude with the month of Adar. The month of Adar, the month of Adar is the sign is Dagim, Pisces. So if someone is born during the month of Adar, it's going to be someone who's going to have the ability of being a good friend with anybody. Okay? Because the sign is, we see not one fish but two, the idea of camaraderie, the idea of friendship. People are born during the month of Adar. What happened during the month of Adar? Purim. Okay? V'na'apochu. Right? It says in the Megillah that everything changed. The Jews were supposed to die during this month. Haman had a decree, right? להשמיד, להרוג ולאבד את כל היהודים, to destroy all the Jewish people. Na'apochu, everything changes. So again, people who are born during this month are going to be people who are prone to change. They'll be able to change easily. It's going to be pretty simple for them. But at the same time, what's the idea of Adar? The idea of Adar is Hester Panim, right? God, in a sense, covered his face, right? Because the Gemara says, the Gemara in Masechet Megillah, famous Gemara, asks the question, Esther min ha-Torah minayin? Where do we find the Esther in the Torah? We don't find it. It doesn't say Esther in the Torah. Esther came later on, many years after the Torah was given. And the Torah says, the Gemara says, yes, there's a remez, there's a hint. It says in the Torah, Haster astir panai bayomahu. God says, there's going to be a time that I'm going to hide my face. And it has the same letters as Esther, which means what happened during the month of Purim? God hid his face. Obviously, God didn't withdraw himself, because if he withdrew himself, the world wouldn't be able to exist. But rather, he was, in a sense, if we want to put it that way, you can't understand, but he was a fan. He was looking, he wasn't intervening too much. Okay? So, that is why, by the way, we have this minhag, this custom of putting costumes on Purim. The same way that God hid his face, we hide our faces. So if someone is born during the month of Adar, they are going to be extremely good actors. They will know how to act, how to be good comedians. And sometimes people will take him seriously, even though they're not going to be serious, but they'll have a really serious face that people think, oh, this guy is so serious, but really he's not. I can tell you that I know it for sure, because we have one of our children who's born during the month of Adar, and this particular child is an extremely good actor. If someone is born during this month, whenever they were in any situation that they find themselves, they'll be able to do something out of it. They'll be able to be extremely creative, and this is a very strong point that the Adar people have. They could imitate other people. They could be, as we said, actors. They could put themselves in other people's shoes and experience and feel what other people are feeling. Sometimes it's not good, because these people could distance themselves or disappear from reality. And again, I know it for sure, because this particular child that we have, sometimes definitely is disappearing from reality, has all types of interesting ideas that are really not the reality, the situation. So they could be, on the other hand, extremely flexible. So they have to know, they have to be extremely careful of how to use these character traits that they have. Purim is spiritual, Adar is very spiritual, and this is, by the way, the only time that we are permitted to drink as much as we want. Right? It is actually, it says, the Gemara says, right, Ad delo yada, right? You have to get to a point of not knowing the difference between Haman and Mordechai, and that's the idea of withdrawing from reality, in a sense, right? When someone is drinking and drinks enough, for a few hours, he's flying, he doesn't know what the reality is all about. And that's actually a mitzvah. We have a mitzvah to do so during Purim, during the month of Adar. And again, people who are born during this month, sometimes without even drinking, they'll be at this status of not being in reality. So people who are born during the month of Adar will have tendency to become alcoholic, to get intoxicated, okay? And therefore, if someone is born during the month of Adar, he or she should know that I could drink, but I have to know when to stop, because if not, I could become an alcoholic. I'll be prone to become an alcoholic. Doug, by the way, has Pisces, right? Has a Dalet and a Gimel, right? So the Gemara asks the question, why did the Gimel, the letter Gimel, came before the letter Dalet? Okay? So the Gemara answers why, because Gimel is Gomel, Dalet is Dalim. Gomel Dalim means the one who is going to give, is going to be kind to the Dal, to the destitute. And therefore, people who are born during the month of Adar, they are going to be always try to be subordinate to other people. They're going to be extremely flexible. They're going to be excellent workers, and they'll have the tendency to always feel good about themselves, and to actually be able to follow instructions that they are given by other people. Okay? Now, as we said before, the idea of Adar also is Na'aseh v'Nishma, the idea of accepting the Torah again, the idea of spirituality that Bnei Israel, the Jewish people, accepted at the time of Purim. So again, if someone is born during this month, he will be able to be someone physical. So, spiritual, sorry. On the other hand, we find the idea of physicality. The four mitzvot that we have, 3 of the 4 mitzvot that we have during Purim are actually material. We have to, because that's what in a sense, the Purim is all about as well. We have to give matanot le'avinim, money to the poor, right? We have to eat seudat Purim, eat and drink, right? Drink wine. And also, what else do we have to do? Mishloach manot, give a minimum of 2 portions to other families. Again, it's the idea of gashmiut, of the physical world. But again, this idea is that we have to elevate it and do a mitzvah with it. People who are born during this month will have this ability. They'll be prone to take things that are material, that are physical, and elevate it into a spiritual level because of the idea of Purim. Okay? Again, people who are born during this month will be spiritual in a sense that what we have to do during Purim, as we said, is the idea of intoxication. But intoxication could be something that is extremely holy, as long as you know how to use it. Right? I could tell you that I saw both. I saw people who get intoxicated and they become, they can't be controlled anymore, and others will become intoxicated and there's chokhmah, there's wisdom that comes out of their mouth. Okay, so the fact is, if someone is born during this month, he will be able to again delve in this world, but elevate it, bring it to very, very high spheres. Another thing about this month is the people who are born during this month will be pretty easygoing. They'll be able to be friendly with other people. They're going to be able to bring people together as Mordechai and Esther did. The idea of fasting, as Esther says to Mordechai, go and ask all the Jewish people to fast for me, and I'm going to go. That's what happened during that month. It started, the whole story of Purim started by Haman going to Ahashverosh and telling him, Yeshno am echad mefuzar u'mforaz miben ha'amim. There's scattered people, and Haman understands that when the Jewish people are not together, this is the time to attack them, and through what Haman plotted to do, the end result is Achdut, unity among the Jewish people. If someone is born during this month, he will be able to bring people together as Mordechai and Haman did. Again, another thing about Mordechai and Esther did. And another thing is, someone who's born during this month he's going to be someone who is going to be extremely popular, okay, because of all these abilities of acting, of being funny, so on and so forth. On the other hand, if someone is born during this month, he could be sometimes weak, a weak person, with sometimes he could have his health could be a little bit at some levels not so good. These people are going to be extremely sensitive, and sensitive to the some say to the weather apparently. People who are born during this month will have a lot of patience. They'll be able to wait a lot of time in order to find solution to an issue that they have. Why? Because of Purim. Purim, by the way, from the beginning till the end, you know how long did it take? I don't know if anyone has any idea. 12 years. 12 years. Yeah, so it was a really long time. So if someone born during this month, he'll be able to have a lot of patience to get to the salvation, to the Yeshua, as the Jewish people did. And even though sometimes life will be extremely tough, they will be able to cope themselves to any situation that they are finding themselves in. Any questions? Okay. So for the next time, God willing, we will go through the days, the hours of the day, and all the days of the week, and you'll see that it's pretty fascinating to know if you know when you are born, because we'll find out that every hour of the day as well is controlled in a sense. God controls everything, but he sends messages through the mazalot for every hour of the day. And God willing, that will be next time. I don't have my smartphone on me, so it's going to be, God willing, hopefully I'll send a message out, but it's going to be on the first Sunday, I guess.
Sunday the 3rd.
Sunday the 3rd? Okay.
Yes.
Sunday the 3rd.
February 28th.
Sunday, okay, Sunday the 3rd. How long is it before Purim? I'm not sure. Before Pesach, I mean not Purim. It's going to be after Purim. I guess it's a few weeks before Purim. Should be before Pesach. It should be okay. Be'ezrat Hashem. So Sunday the 3rd of March. Okay, it's going to be the Be'ezrat Hashem next class. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Rabbi, do you have the recording for last?
I do. It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. Oh, okay.
Both of them are on YouTube.
Because I missed mine.
It's
They
on-
are?
Yeah, it's on Facebook, it's on YouTube, it's on...
really?
Yeah, it's all over.
If you follow him on Facebook, the links are.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't.
Look at Facebook.
That's it.
But
Okay.
I'll go. What?
Anyone wants a drink? We could have some water, whatever. We could have the
Rabbi,
chaim.
I have a question
Yes.
about Sagittarius, because it's, isn't it like some of the signs is also the body of a horse and the upper body of a man, that is shooting the arrow? Nobody makes that difference, but they say about the spiritual and the physical.
Aha, the
With the
idea
body
of...
of the horse wants the nature and the,
So
the
the-
head of a man.
Aha, so there's a
of
mixture
this-
between physical and spiritual there, you say. Okay. What's the element? Let's remember, what was the element of that month?
The arrow and the bow.
Fire.
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 Okay, that makes sense. Because fire, again, could be something that's it's definitely spiritual, but it could definitely, what could happen with fire, we spoke about it before, it could bring warmth, but it could also destroy, devour. So this is, so someone born during this month will have the, I guess, sometimes the dilemma between spirituality and physicality, and will have to make the right choices. The whole key of this class is, by the way, to make the right choices. To know how to use what you have, because you are prone to that. And by the way, we spoke about that before. It's that you could find the, and I said that, I was pretty careful to say that even if someone is born under those mazalot, it's not necessarily that he's going to have those character traits. But if he doesn't have them, it's because he covers them. he's prone to have them, right? Because that's why he was born during this time, or during this month, or hour, or day of the week. But sometimes he could be, he could cover them, he could change himself because of that. And so it's not necessarily that. I know that many people, when I gave this class before, they told me that yeah, there's a lot of, it makes sense whatever I was teaching or I was relating, but it's not necessarily in all cases. As I said, sometimes people could change themselves, they could cover their true identity, which sometimes maybe could be good, depends how they do it. But the fact is, I think it's important to know when we are born in order to know what our strong points are and what our weak points are, and to balance that off, to know what we have to work on, and through that to become better people. And this is just, I think it's an amazing key. But again, we have to be extremely careful when it comes to that. And as I said before, I don't want anyone to come out of this class, if someone is in the marriage business, he wants to get married, or she wants to get married, and is going to come out and think to himself, okay, I'm fire, I'm not going to find someone who's water. No, I didn't say that, never said that. What it means is, if someone is fire, the element of fire and the element of water, and they live together, each one will have to work on himself to complement the other, right? Because as we said, fire and water could actually dwell together. Why did they dwell together? Shamayim in the heavens. Shamayim is a combination of esh umayim, fire and water. If God could do it, right? God is doing it in the heavens. It doesn't mean it's easy to do it, don't get me wrong, but it is possible to do it. There are exceptions to that. I mean, there are people who, there are couples. I know that there's a story about Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, blessed memory, a great tzaddik, a great righteous chacham in Yerushalayim. When his wife passed away, when he was eulogizing her, he said usually a husband, when his wife passes away, he has to ask her forgiveness for what they did. But to be honest, I don't remember ever upsetting you. So imagine that. They were married for, I don't know how many years, 50 years or more. And he says, I don't remember ever upsetting you. Okay, that's a had the road, that's we find exceptions to the rule. But the fact is, I think that it's normal to get upset, to sometimes not. Marriage is not something that is perfect, or living together with someone else, or being a partner in a business with someone else is not necessarily something that is always good. But the fact is, if we know the elements, we know how to complement each other to have a strong relationship. No one said that this world is a bouquet of roses, and the fact is, we come to this world to become better people, to elevate ourselves, to become more spiritual, to become more connected to God, through the fact that we have to change. To stay stagnant is not good, to go down a level is not good. The idea is always to try to elevate ourselves, and even if sometimes we, there's this idea of yarida lema'an aliyah, which means sometimes a person has to go all the way to the bottom level in order to elevate himself again. And the fact is, that's what happens to all of us sometimes in our lives. We have ups and downs, but what we have to remember is never to give up, and always to try to, as the idea of ish, or fire, to elevate ourselves, and to through that to become better people. And by the way, also another interesting and important point is not to change other people, but rather to change ourselves. I don't know if you know the story, but there's a story about a young rabbi who comes to this congregation, to this community. It's his first position as being rabbi, the leader of a community, and he is very ambitious and comes with a lot of ambitions, and he wants to change the world. He wants to change the whole community. And 6 months or a year into his work, his job, he understands it's not going to happen. I'm not going to change the whole community. It's impossible. Some people will never change. Okay, so